Good morning, one and all. This is, in case you didn't hear that original introduction, good morning, one and all. This is Chorodas. We went the first 12 minutes last week without any sound. Hopefully, we're not doing that this week. This is the 18th episode of the Krishna Light Show, started a number of months ago, because I had a desire to practice my rap songs that I use for the Festival of Colors. Get hardly any practice nowadays. Every one of our festivals for 2020 have been canceled because of the coronavirus. But this is a chance to brush up dust, shake the dust off once a week and practice some of our rap songs. And it also, the basis of it is reading and reminiscing from this book here, which is called Great Transcendental Adventure, written by a devotee named Korma, about our adventures joining Krishna consciousness and getting it started in the continent down under in years between 1970 and 1975. So we're between two holidays. I just finished a Zoom broadcast with a number of congregational members about Radharani, Radhastami, the appearance day of the eternal consort of Lord Krishna. She's a source of Lakshmi, the source of Durga, source of Kali. They're all expansions of Srimati Radharani. Her appearance day comes up on Tuesday, and so we had a show dedicated to the glories of Radharani. But for this show, I think Radharani is a little too esoteric for our purposes here, in as much as yesterday, I believe, was the Ganesh Caturti, the appearance day of Lord Ganesh. So we're going to start off our show with 3 songs written by MC Yogi about Ganesh and his mother Parvati and his father, the great Mahadev, Lord Shiva. Are you ready? Ganesh, so fresh, chilling on his throne, surrounded by incense, fruits, and gold, with heaps of sweets piled up in his bowl. He guards the gate and protects the threshold. When you're blessed by Ganesh, you can conquer birth, disease, old age, and death, because he paves the path that leads to the soul, and he's known for removing all obstacles. Now, some may say it's illogical, mythological, or even philosophical, but with Ganesh, anything's possible because elephant power is unstoppable. He's a son of Shiva and Parvati with an elephant's head and a big fat body. He uses a snake as a rope to hold up his pants. He rides on a mouse and he loves to dance. He's a lord of creatures, possessed of divine features, attracts the minds of genuine true seekers. He's a god of wisdom, beloved of children, known for protecting the homes that we live in. He writes the pages that the sages love to chant, dripping with knowledge like nectar so that we can comprehend the ways to transcend. Sing and Jai to Ganesh, the yogi's best friend. We pray to Ganesh to remove the stress and pave the way to a place that's blessed. He unties the knots that confine our thoughts. He breaks up the blocks. He dissolves the walls. He unlocks the door to our inner core. He picks us back up off the floor. He's the benevolent elephant, super intelligent, dedicated to Ganesh, son of Parvati and Mahesh. Here's the Ganesh, because he's so fresh. Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh Om. 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 This is about the circumstances behind his birth. I'm sure if you've seen pictures of the elephant-headed, human-bodied Ganesh, you would have wondered, how did that happen? Well, you're about to find out in song and music. As soon as I clear my throat. High in Himalayan peaks lived a goddess named Parvati. She was the wife of Shiva, king of yogis and lord of destroyer of demons. And Shiva loved to do yoga deep in the forest, far away from the world and the things that lure us. And when Shiva went away, Parvati stayed home, often feeling sad and alone. One day she prayed and wished for a son that she could play with and have fun. Next moment, to her surprise, a beautiful baby appeared before her eyes. Parvati could hardly believe her joy. The gods had given her a beautiful baby boy. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Om. 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 Fast forward a few years, Parvati wanted to take a bath. She asked her teenage son, keep an eye on the path. He stood at the door just like a guard to make sure no one would come into the yard. Wouldn't you know, at that moment Shiva returned, not realizing that his wife had given birth. He saw the boy and he asked him to move. Not knowing his father, the boy refused. Now, Shiva's all truth, consciousness, and bliss. But he's crazy when he's angry, so don't get him pissed. Feeling dismissed, he started a rumble, an epic struggle right there in the jungle. And out of nowhere, his trident went chop and cut the poor boy's head right off. When Parvati heard the noise outside, she came out to find that her boy had died. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, oh. 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 The demigods quickly rushed to the scene as soon as they heard Parvati scream. She turned to her husband with tears in her eyes and painfully explained how the boy was her child. When Shiva realized the size of the mess, he became upset, stressed, and depressed. That's when Lord Brahma came up with a plan. Hey, let's find another head so the boy can live again. Shiva said, we'll take the first head we find. We need to hurry because we're running out of time. In the jungle, they met an elephant, a wise old being who had attained enlightenment. He bowed to the gods and offered his head. They took the elephant's head back to where the teenage boy lay dead. Shiva took the big head and put it on the young boy's body. At first, it looked funny and even ungodly. But hey, Parvati said it fit like a glove. Truly a face that only a mother could love. When Shiva saw that his son was refreshed, he embraced him and he called him Ganesh. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Om. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Om. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Om. So how about Shiva, the mysterious father of Ganesh and husband of Parvati? Have you ever wondered about him? Here's some information. Again, this is by N.C. Yogi from a song called Shiva Shine. I bow to Lord Shiva with love and respect. I invoke him with a slogan because I'm open to connect in devotion because he's always in effect in deep meditation with the snake around his neck. He's the husband of Parvati Mahashakti. He rides the white bull, the vehicle Nandi. He's the father of Ganapati, Mr. Mahadev. The Ganges flows down from the crown of his head. A crescent moon rests right next to his dress. He's the god of the dead, covered in ash with a smile on his face, and his compassion is vast. He lives in Mount Kailash, also known as his Himalayan home. And in the shape of a lingam, he's a rolling stone. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om. The Shiva Shankar, the yoga master, also known as Nataraj, the cosmic dancer. He's the lord of destruction, the god of disaster. If you don't invite him in, he's a party crasher. To the old school mystic, is Krishna but dualistic. He shifts my mind from a place that's materialistic to a space that's more holistic. He's a magnetic ascetic who makes my soul shine. He awakens a snake at the base of the spine. Third eye wide open in yoga pose. He focuses my mind so the petals unfold in deep concentration with breath's control. He worships Lord Vishnu by chanting his names. As the Ganges drains into the sea, his bhakti remains at Vishnu's lotus feet. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya. The flames get higher as the corpse gets burned on the funeral pyre. Your soul never dies, so you won't expire. When it's time to die, just let go of this attire. Exhale to release selfish desire. May my soul aspire to shine brightly like Shiva Nataraj, whom I admire, dancing on a demon in a burning ring of fire. Hey Mahadev, you're known as suspiciousness, also pure consciousness, truth, and bliss, creating, devastating, transformating. You saved the whole world when you swallowed up the poison. You destroyed bad habits, ignorance, and greed, practicing compassion, detachment, and peace. To the Lord of meditation who lives in the Himalayas, to the King of all yogis, I offer these prayers. Om Namo Shivaya, Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya, Shivaya Namo Om. Om Namo Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Om, Om Namo Shivaya, Shivaya Namo Om. One more tribute to Ganesh. We'll go back to the first song that we started with. Do it double time. This is Ganesh is Fresh, again from an album by MC Yogi. Ganesh so fresh, chilling on his throne, surrounded by incense, fruits, and gold. With heaps of sweets piled up in his bowl, he guards the gate and protects the threshold. When you're blessed by Ganesh, you can conquer birth, disease, old age, and death, because he paves the path that leads to the soul, and he's known for removing all obstacles. Now, some may say it's mythological, illogical, even philosophical, but with Ganesh, anything's possible, because elephant power is unstoppable. He's the son of Shiva and Parvati with an elephant's head and a big fat body. He uses a snake as a rope to hold to his pants. He rides on a mouse, and he loves to dance. He's a lord of creatures, possessed with divine features, attracts the minds of genuine truth seekers. He's a god of wisdom, beloved of children, known for protecting the homes that we live in. He writes the pages that the sages love to chant, dripping with knowledge like nectar, so we can comprehend all the ways to transcend. Sing a Jai to Ganesha, the yogi's best friend. We pray to Ganesh to remove the stress, pave the way to a place that's blessed. He unties the knots that confine our thoughts. He breaks up the blocks. He dissolves the walls. He unlocks the door to our inner core. He picks us back up off the floor. He's the benevolent elephant, super intelligent, dedicated to Ganesh, son of Parvati and Mahesh. Here's to Ganesh because he's so fresh. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Om. 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 I think we started out the show fittingly, considering that yesterday was Ganesh Caturti. Ganesh is the elephant-headed god who removes all obstacles. He's worshipped by materialists who want to attain material temporal goals, but he's also worshipped by transcendentalists also who want Ganesh to pave their way back to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Other part of our show, other than rap music, is reading from this book called The Great Transcendental Adventure by Kurma. It talks about the founding of Krishna consciousness in Australia between 1970 and 1975. We're on page 277, well past halfway through the book. And that's as it should be, because this is segment 18 of the Krishna show. So as we read this, sometimes triggers some memories, sometimes mentions my name, Caru, and Bhai Bobby's name, and it sends us off into flights of nostalgia and reminiscences. Otherwise, even without that, it's a darn good read. Korma, if you're out there, thank you for this service to the devotees and this chronicle of this a grassroots beginning of our movement in Australia more than almost 50 years ago. Gosh, it's a long time, isn't it? Hare Krishna. Okay, we're in 1973. I think this is during Prabhupada's third visit to Australia. The double-decker bus full of chanting devotees pulled up outside the stately town hall. I think it's the Sydney Town Hall in the center of downtown Sydney. The melodious kirtan party proceeded up the elegant sandstone steps, crossed the open terrace, and entered the cavernous main hall. Flowers and garlands decorated the temple Vyasasan that was set up on the stage before the gigantic pipe organ. A large flower show had finished just that afternoon, and since the organizers had not yet removed all the potted plants and greenery, devotees had included them in the attractive stage decor. Devotees chanted for 20 minutes until Srila Prabhupada arrived, and then sat down around him in a semicircle on stage. Prabhupada sang the Bhaja Jaya Radha Madhava Bhajan with deep feeling. He opened his Bhagavad Gita volume to the correct page, put on his horn-rimmed eyeglasses. Immediately his demeanor changed. It appeared that Srila Prabhupada had gone into deep professorial meditation. This feature of Prabhupada also emphasized his scholarship and wisdom and his contemplation of the scriptures. Prabhupada's lecture was long and full. Several hundred people appeared to listen attentively. But when it came time for questions, the rather nondescript crowd was silent. Prabhupada asked several times for questions, but the hall was quiet. After a particularly painful silence, Prabhupada indicated for kirtan to start, exited the stage, and left through the side door into the balmy Sydney night. In the car on the way back to the temple, Madhavisa expressed his amazement that not one question had been asked. Prabhupada gave his judgment. They are dull-headed meatheads. They can understand the philosophy. So give them prasadam and chanting. That's all. Moving forward here. An initiation ceremony held in the backyard of the Sydney Temple was to be the largest ever of its kind for Australia. Over 25 devotees from over Australia would be receiving initiations. Devotees had dug a massive fire pit in the center of the yard. Buckets of grains and geese and piles of wood were stacked next to the 2-meter wide area. By mid-afternoon, under clear blue skies, Sydney Sunday feast guests, locals and neighbors, devotees and their family members had gathered expectantly. Television crews set up their cameras. In those days, the cameras weren't these little mini things that you see. Those were huge affairs with large tripods. A small record player continually played the Govindam single that Prabhupada had recorded, or Yamuna. Ladies made last-minute adjustments to Prabhupada's Vyasasana, set up at the back of the yard and flanked with palm trees and shaded from the sun and wind by a brocade canopy. The festive atmosphere was fully sanctified as Srila Prabhupada, looking relaxed and effulgent, walked from his adjoining house. Surveying the extensive area from his raised seat, Prabhupada reminded the devotees of an emperor on his throne, or a general reviewing his troops. The candidates for initiation sat in a large circle around the fire pit. One by one, as their names were called, the devotees rose, approached Srila Prabhupada, and garlanded him with fragrant frangipani flowers. Frangipani flowers are everywhere in Australia. So aromatic. Gosh, takes me back. I haven't had any frangipani flowers in America that I can recall. After bowing down, they paused to listen as Srila Prabhupada asked them to recite their vows. What are the 4 rules? Prabhupada would ask. No meeting, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. How many rounds do you chant? That's a set of 108 beads. Chant one mantra each bead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You got 107 more in order to finish one round. And the initiated devotees do 16 rounds, which takes about close to 2 hours. 16, they would say. Sometimes Prabhupada would lean forward and raise his eyebrows and say, how many minimum number of rounds? 16. Little Yanaka, not wanting to miss out on initiation, that was the small toddler son of Ugrashava, one of the devotees, also approached and began crawling up the steps to Prabhupada's Vyasasana. Prabhupada smiled broadly. Not now. Maybe in a few more years. He could be a guru. The lecture and fire ceremony completed, Prabhupada prepared to return to his house. A tumultuous kirtan completed the auspicious event. As a devotee applied a mixture of ghee and fire ashes in the form of a black dot to the forehead of every person present, a couple of local children ran forward to receive the sacred marking. Their mother called them nervously, "Come away from there." Prabhupada turned to this lady and, laughing, gave his light-hearted decree. No, they can't leave now. They've joined. Moving on here, we're at page 284 now, and this is Monday, the 19th of February, 1973. Prabhupada had said on a number of occasions that he traveled to keep his devotees spiritually alive. Despite sometimes saying that he would come and stay in one place for an extended period to write, he would feel compelled to regularly travel to oversee the growth and maintenance of his Krishna-conscious mission. Now he was moving on to Auckland, established 1 year before in 1972. Srila Prabhupada felt that his time was limited and he desired to strengthen the New Zealand temple so that they would go on in his absence. The devotees exuberantly danced and chanted alongside Srila Prabhupada as they accompanied him down the corridors of Sydney Airport. They sat with him in the departure lounge airport until it was time for him to board. Then, abandoning decorum and chanting wildly, the devotees raced to the observation deck as the jet exhaust blasted, and the plane taxied out onto the runway. The devotees continued to chant Hare Krishna until the plane left the ground, became a speck in the sky, and then disappeared. It's a custom in our culture that when you see somebody off, someone whom you honor and respect, you stand there until they're no longer in sight. You wait until the car goes around the corner or goes so far away that you can no longer see it, or the airplane takes off. And it's an aspect of offering respect and honor to spiritual superiors and mentors and all. So that's what we did. And that was in 1973. So let's, what would you like to hear now? Let's have a triplet of songs about the sovereignty of God, how he has his plan, he does things his way, not our way. It's not up to us to understand how he fulfills his dreams for us. If we could understand him, then we'd be God instead of him. Sometimes the best we can do is just be patient, endure the hits on the chin, smile, be good to people that aren't being good to us, and trust God. He knows what he's doing. But we can't question him. And if you start giving up and getting discouraged and bitter and complaining, then the beautiful future that God would like you to step into is going to edge away. It's going to be like the carrot, goes away. And we don't want that for you. Krishna doesn't want that for you either. So always speak victory, always speak trust. Knowing that it's not our part to understand how God does things. It's our part to just trust him. Put on your hard hat, buckle your seat back, go along for the ride. It's not always smooth, but he will get you to where he wants you to go. All right. The Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footstep on the sea, rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are full with mercy and will break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err. Scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. One devotee wrote, my life is but a weaving between my Lord and me. I cannot choose the colors, but he worketh steadily. He often weaves sorrow, and I in foolish pride forget he sees the upper, and I the underside. Not until the loom falls silent and the shuttle ceases to fly will Krishna unroll the canvas and reveal the reasons why. The dark threads are as needful in the weaver's skillful hand, as are the threads of gold and silver in the pattern that he has planned. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Another devotee wrote, Krishna's ways may twist and turn, my heart may throb and ache, but my soul has no concern, because he makes no mistake. My cherished plans may go astray, my hopes may fade away, but I'll still trust in him to lead. Why? Because he knows the way. There's so much I cannot see, my eyesight far too dim. Who am I to disagree? I'm just going to go right along with you. Though the night be dark and the light take forever to break, I'm going to pin my hopes in him. Why? Because he makes no mistake. And by and by the mist will lift, the foggy night will fade, and the rising sun will make it plain. He made not one mistake. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. This is actually the fourth song. It's by William Bray, and over the ages it has been deemed the most popular song or poem in the English language. It's very mystical, but I think you'll get a sense. God is not someone to challenge or second guess. You can't predict what he's going to do. You can't question him. You can't mess with him. The best policy is just feel yourself couched in his powerful, loving, sheltering hands. Go along for the ride. Are you curious to know what the poem is by now? Here we go. William Blake. In fact, those yellow tones behind me sort of remind me. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hands dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could frame the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hands and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain, and what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare thy deadly terrors clasp? And when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile who made his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps on the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are full with mercy and will break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Because we're mainly concerned with events that happen in Australia, we'll skip forward past the New Zealand visit. In fact, this next segment probably is not in Australia. This is the interim between its third and fourth visit. We're still in February of 1973. But this talks about the arrival in America of a very eccentric, extraordinary personality who became one of my best friends. His name was Buddimanta. He revolutionized book distribution all over the world and brought about profound, dramatic changes for the better in the outreach as well as the finances and the standing of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Rarely has one person, other than Prabhupada himself, made such profound differences. So this is the story of Buddimanta in Australia, or at least his arrival there. Only a few days before Buddimanta arrived, and remember Buddimanta is like the avatar of book distribution. He'd been having great success in America, and it was decided to send him around so that he could teach his book distribution techniques to the devotees in Europe and Australia and Asia. So here's some preliminary information. Only a few days before Buddimanta's arrival, Caru, that's me, had received a tape in the mail from a leading book distributor in America. Tape was made by Rameshwar, who was head of the publishing company, and it was to do with the also successful techniques of Tripurari, who later became Tripurari Swami as an ashram up there in Santa Rosa, California. But he was also the other main avatar for book distribution. The only difference, I think, is that Buddimanta always went out in a dhoti and presented himself as a monk, whereas Tripurari pioneered the pants and shirt type of distribution, a little bit what we like to call undercover. But Buddimanta, he was always right up front about everything. So I had received a tape made by Rameshwar about Tripurari's techniques. Tripurari described a new technique that was revolutionizing literature distribution in America. It's very simple. Previously, you'd hold a book or a piece of literature, a magazine out, and ask people to buy it. So anyone that took it or anyone that you gave it to would be one of those rare souls who had already determined to buy the book. So you could be there for an hour holding a piece of literature out and nobody would stop. Well, this was the revolutionary technique. Just put it in their hands. Once it's marketers, retailers, they know that once someone has something in their hand, they start getting attached to it. So first thing you do is you just hand them the book. If they want to continue walking and brush you off, that's okay. You've lost a book, okay, $1, 50 cents worth of printing, that's it. But most people would stop, get the feel of the book in their hands, and then you could talk about it, and then almost let them go, just after having given a short explanation, trying to pique their curiosity. They're wondering throughout all of that, are they going to ask me for a donation and how much it's going to be and everything. So just at the end, just almost as an afterthought, could you leave a little something to help pay for the printing? And really, that's all we're interested in. Because if you just gave out all the books, you could do that, but then you wouldn't have any money to print another batch. So the way to distribute hundreds of thousands, if not millions of books was to, as much as possible, get each recipient to give you a donation, which would cover the printing costs of the books. And some wouldn't give anything, or some would give less than the printing cost. But there were enough people who gave a lot more, generous people who made everything break even. And so that was basically the new technique, is you just hand out the books, talk to people, and then ask for a donation. So here's more explanation. Before hearing the tape, True had subscribed to the standard method of book distribution in Australia. A devotee would stand in the street, hold a back-to-guided magazine or small paper book in a vertical position, and would only hand it to the person if they actually came up and asked for it. The devotee would ask for a donation, and then the book or magazine would be handed over. Tripurari described the new method. The distributor would hand someone a book or magazine, talk to them, then ask for a contribution after the person already had it in his or her hand. Doesn't sound so earth-shaking or revelatory, but it was. It made all the difference in the world. Once they had the literature in their hand, he said they would develop an immediate sense of possessiveness and would rather keep it and give a donation than give it back. And that is psychologically true. True tried the technique and it worked. But the new idea hadn't gotten beyond True. I just heard this tape by myself and went out and tried it. And I think it was like 3 or 4 days. And I was distributing. I was breaking all the records for the time being. And I just, of course, was in the process of sharing and explaining to other devotees when I no longer had to do so because of the arrival of Buddimanta. Continuing, when Madhavisa Swami returned to Australia after accompanying Prabhupada to Auckland, he heard the latest news. The sleeping giant had awoken. Buddimanta had gone into the books because all these books had been shipped to Australia and they were just sitting there gathering dust. And we couldn't print more books until they were passed on and paid for. So let me just take some of the output off here. These notifications can be annoying, can't they? So the sleeping giant of Buddimanta had gone into the book storage shed in the backyard, seen colossal stacks of books, and made a firm vow. All these books will be distributed in 3 months. How was it possible? Devotees had sometimes pondered the ceiling-high stacks of paperback nectar devotion, hardbound Krishna books, and readings of Lord Chaitanya that had started arriving in the latter half of 1972. This is 6 months later at least. A few boxes had been opened. Some devotees had taken personal copies to read. Others had cut out pictures and stuck them on the walls. A leaking roof had caused rain damage for a few other boxes, and the rest had stayed, gathering dust. The temple leaders had wondered, what were they going to do with all these books? When they heard that Buddimanta had the answer, they listened to his story with interest. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Buddimanta explained that a similar scenario had existed in America not too long before. What to do with all the books had seemed a mystery till one day a couple of devotees had made an accidental discovery. After chanting in downtown San Francisco, they had pulled up at a service station for petrol. When the attendant had asked for payment, the devotees had shown him a Krishna book. After describing the glories of the book, the man had agreed to accept the book as payment for the petrol. Inspired by their success, devotees, including Buddimanta, had tried to sell the hardcover books on the street and door to door, and had found that people were indeed interested to take them. Soon Buddimanta was selling 5 books a day, and the news spread throughout the west coast of California. These are hardback books. And their donation like $10 each. Hardback books are a little more expensive to print. And eventually, devotees got up to 100 books a day. I think one devotee stayed out for 24 hours around Christmas time and did 500 books at Atlanta Airport. Tattvadarshan, I believe his name was. Since then, book distribution in America had increased in great strides. Within months, temples in America were selling hundreds of Krishna books a week. Srila Prabhupada heard the news with great delight and had written Kesava, the king of Krishna book distribution. He was the president in San Francisco there. Prabhupada says, "By distributing my books profusely, you are giving me great encouragement to translate, and you're all helping me to fulfill the order which Guru Maharaj gave me. So I'm very much grateful to you, and I'm sure Krishna will bless you 1,000,000 times over for doing this work." End quote. Copies of that letter had gone out to all ISKCON temples, including Sydney. On the advice of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, Mohanananda had ordered books, and they had arrived in the thousands. But the leaders in Australia, intrigued as they were, could not figure out what to do with them. When Kesava, himself an old friend of Madhavisa, had written to him suggesting that Buddimanta come to Australia to train the devotees how to distribute books, Madhavisa agreed. Now Buddimanta was saying that in 3 months the bookshed would be empty. Devotees could scarcely conceive of the idea, but it seemed more than an empty challenge. Buddimanta had been regularly selling hardcover books on the streets of Sydney for a couple weeks now, and some devotees had been going out with him, scrutinizing his techniques. Buddimanta was a unique individual, a fair-skinned celibate student. He towered well over 180 centimeters tall. I don't know what that, but he was 6'3", skinny, but tall. Although humble and often thoughtful in the temple, on the street he was loud, gregarious, and utterly confident. There his demeanor was intense. He would stare people right in the eyes, not shifting his glance. And yet with his smiles, he would literally disarm people with his warmth and enthusiasm. He would stare at them, and then he would open up in a great smile. So he would charm them. Buddimanta told the devotees that he had gotten his original experience of distributing literature as a youth in San Francisco. He had sold the Berkeley Barb, an avant-garde newspaper, and had developed his technique style. That style, coupled with Buddimanta's unquenchable zest and enthusiasm to serve the order of his spiritual master, was infectious. Soon a close core of trainees began distributing 5, then 10 hardcover books, each on the streets of Sydney. Just finishing up here, another couple of paragraphs. As well as gradually emptying the storage shed, Sydney's book distribution revolution yielded other positive changes, especially in the devotees' daily diet. I remember before Buddimanta came, we weren't getting many calories a day, just some weak soup or some halva with all sugar and no bananas or no fruits in it. It wasn't the healthiest of diets because we just didn't have any money to spend on it. But after Buddimanta came and book distribution started getting up, we began a little bit more money coming in, and then it was discerned that it was important to keep the strength of the book distributors up. So feeding them well was then a good investment. Since the temple income had been meager, the devotees ate very austerely. That's putting it mildly. Breakfast had consisted of boiled semolina porridge flavored with a little orange rind and a lot of sugar. Lunch was simple rice and vegetables. Of course, if you're out distributing books, what was lunch? Buddimanta changed all that. If devotees were going out and working hard all day, he reasoned they needed more substantial prasad. So for a start, his book distribution party, now regularly distributing with Buddimanta downtown, would eat a big, hearty breakfast before, quote, hitting the streets, unquote. One of the devotees, Yasumatinanda, he's passed on. When I went to Australia for a reunion in 2012, he was skin and bones. He only lasted, I think, another 3 weeks after that, but he was a great book distributor and a funny guy. That's one thing about Australians. They're great to hang out with, to bond with. They always have a great sense of humor. Yasumatinanda, and I saw him 3 weeks before he passed away. He was joking and laughing and making everybody else feel good, even though he was on his deathbed, basically. So this is a quote from my old friend Yasumatinanda, rest his soul. Buddimanta's breakfasts were memorable. One of them was pea cheese. He'd throw a kilo of cream cheese at a wok with 1 kilo of peas and a half a kilo of butter, stir it in, add salt and pepper, and that was it, pea cheese. I also remember the Ekadasi version for the days that we fasted from peas. Instead of peas, he'd add cauliflower. And when the butter floated to the top, the cauliflower appeared to be swimming. So he called it cauliflower breaststroke. This wasn't health food. It was Sankirtan food. Buddhimanta's philosophy was eat big, distribute big. As the books went out, finances got better. The temple could not only now regularly pay rent money to Srila, but also the temple could not only now regularly remit money to Srila Prabhupada's Central Book Fund, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, but could also afford to pay for better standards of devotee care and deity worship. Gradually, the standards of the temple improved. The deities were regularly offered more opulent meals, and in turn, the devotees ate more healthy, substantial prasadam. That's food that's been offered to the Lord. The devotees were going out, preaching was going on, and the consciousness of the devotees automatically improved. All right, so let's do the karma songs, shall we? To finish things up here for our 18th segment of the Krishna Light Show. You're also welcome to join us later on tonight at 5 o'clock when we have our Sydney, what am I talking about? Spanish Fork. Always talk about Australia. We have our Spanish Fork Sunday feast every Sunday at 5 o'clock. And I give unlike this, more of a motivational talk. We call it Chant for Change series. So we'll be back on Facebook Live in just a few hours. So the karma song, are you up for that? Karma is action and reaction. You sow the seed, you face the deed. Whatever you do comes back to you. The law of cause and effect ensures the balance is perfect. Detecting whatever you do, good and bad, it will resurrect. Death is not the end, it's just a bend. Whatever you've done is going to circle back again. The body may die, but your karma is standing by. You'll be reborn to live and die. Continue to suffer and cry. As aroma follows the flower, so heat pursues the fire. Your karma will track you as soon as you leave the funeral pyre. Karma decides how you'll be reborn. Humble, humiliated, comely or scorned, straight or deformed, healthy or ill, long or short-lived, animal or human, sheltered or adrift. Karma is what makes the world go round. It's cause and effect right down there on the ground. For those going over and around, up and down, drowned by their deeds, bound by their needs. Is there any cause to our life on earth? Do we just die and continually take birth? Is there any escape from the pain of coming back again and again and again and again? Yes. You're not this flesh and you're not this mind. Eternal spirit designed in the image of the Almighty Divine, assigned to His service sublime. Attracted by unselfish action, serving the Lord with dispassion, acting only for His satisfaction, devoted souls achieve extraction from karmic reaction. If you want to burn up your karma, practice the dharma of pleasing the Lord, fashioned by His hand, acting according to His plan, and never come back to this mortal world again. Sound good? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We shape ourselves the joys and fears of which the coming life is made, and fill our future's atmospheres with sunshine or with shade. The tissue of the life to be we weave in colors all our own, and in the field of destiny we reap where we have sown. Karma is action and reaction. You sow the seed, you face the deed. Whatever you do comes back to you. The law of cause and effect ensures that the balance is perfect. Detecting whatever you do, good and bad, it will resurrect. Death is not the end, it's just a bend. Whatever you've done is going to circle back again. The body may die, but your karma is standing by. You'll be reborn to suffer and cry. Continue to live and die. Karma decides how you'll be reborn, comely or scorned, high or humiliated, straight or deformed, healthy or ill, strong or short-lived, animal or human, sheltered or adrift. Karma is cause and effect right down there on the ground for those going over and around, up and down, drowned by their deeds, bound by their needs. As aroma follows the flower, as heat pursues the fire, your karma will track you as soon as you leave the funeral pyre. Is there any purpose to our life on earth? Do we just die and continually take birth? Is there any escape from the pain of coming back again and again and again and again? Yes. You're eternal soul. You're not this flesh and you're not this mind. You're designed after the image of the Almighty Divine, assigned to a service sublime. Attracted by unselfish acts and serving the Lord with dispassion, acting only for His satisfaction, devoted souls achieve extraction from karmic reaction. Fashioned by His hand, act according to His plan. If you want to burn up your karma, practice the Dharma, pleasing the Lord, fashioned by His hand, act in the middle of His plan, and never, ever, ever, ever come back to this world of birth and death again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. On that thought, that happy thought, getting off the wheel of karma, action and reaction, escaping from the ocean of samsara. On that happy thought, let us take your leave till we meet next time, either tonight at 5 o'clock. No, tonight at 5 o'clock. Or on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday also, with Srimad Bhagavatam classes at 7:30 Mountain Daylight Time, Facebook Live. And until we see each other again, please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.